Hello viewers, I'm Ron Grant coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. You're watching 284 Media. Thank you so much for your time. As we continue to look across our region and watch, of course, closely the general elections of many of our counterparts, we take a look at the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, earlier in this year, you heard us speak to Mr. Sean Richards of the PAM party. And of course, now we are speaking with another candidate, Mr. Samuel Duggins, who is of the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party. Of course, he is vying for the position of leader in constituency number 4. As you know, there have been a number of issues affecting the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and Mr. Duggins is going to bring to light some of those issues and how he plans to address them when elected. All this after a quick commercial break.
Yo, everything good, Dad?
Aye. This thing got me one way, Daddy.
What you mean?
Ever since I hook up with this thing, can't eat, I can't sleep. This is the first thing I touch it when I reach home.
What you really? Hey, this ain't like you, you know.
Dad, this thing got me staying home, keeping out of trouble me.
Wow. What your name is?
Shit. I talking about my CCT life.
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and sign up for CCT Live to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
1 month free trial turn into 5. 5 months turn into, well, you know I huff. I watching ball. I been watching football. Dad, Nickelodeon, Paw Patrol. I am hooked. Hook, I tell you.
Viewers, welcome back and thank you so much for sticking with us. You're watching 284 Media out of Tortola in the Virgin Islands. As promised, I am joined by Mr. Samuel Duggins of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, a candidate under the Labour Party in the upcoming general elections. Mr. Duggins, welcome to 284 Media and by extension, the Virgin Islands. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Grant, and to all of your viewers and listeners. I'm happy to be here, indeed.
You're most welcome. Now, you are an entrepreneur, of course, the founder and operator of the award-winning Montreville Farms, which grows fresh produce. You're a family man, husband, a community-oriented person. Many of the persons that know you say essentially the heartbeat of labor. That is the party for which you are running as a candidate. I want to give you an opportunity to express to the general public a little bit more about your background that would have led you to the political arena.
Yes, indeed. You are so correct. I've been able and blessed to be a part of a diverse number of areas. So my initial background, of course, would be more with academics, as I've been a teacher, a student teacher at the Virtuals High School, which is the only high school within constituency number 4. And after leaving teaching, I went through entrepreneurship, and I've been blessed to run a number of enterprises. I started out with a fast food endeavor, and I then gradually shifted more into entertainment. And I've been a part of the entertainment landscape locally, regionally, and internationally to some degree for the past 20 plus years. That would have seen me writing the global theme song for UNESCO Small Island Voice. They would have seen me performing on the St. Kitts Music Festival for a number of years, starting in 2004. And it would have seen me as a promoter. So I've been a part of a number of events in promotions across the nation. Number of the major events I've had some involvement with would be some bit with the team Inception and the Inception Fed, some bit with Party Central, and a number of other private events that we would have promoted. But most recently, I've been a farmer, and I'm proud to say that because
Yes.
I think our country has an issue with food security, much like most other countries within our region. And I have made a deliberate attempt to address that. And so far in the past 5 years where I've been active with farming, I've been blessed again to be awarded Agricultural Man of the Year last November. So I'm currently Agricultural Man of the Year, awarded by the Ministry of Gender Affairs. And that is in part due to my direct commitment to address head on our issue in food security and nutrition security within the Federation.
Wonderful. So we are at the point where you have continuously been on the ground. The campaign, I'm sure, has
Yes,
been grueling and time consuming, and you are
very much
really,
so.
truly at the heart, like your introduction said, seeking to represent the people of the constituency number 4. Based on your significant level of experience in education, entrepreneurship, as well as entertainment, what are some of the major issues you observe? Of course, you mentioned food security being one of them within the constituency and by extension the entire federation that you plan to address.
Yes, so we could start where we left off, food security. Constituency number 4 is farming community. It's a part of the farming belt because it has a high level of rainfall. And also, a number of the top fishermen within the Federation actually are based in constituency number 4. So, the idea of ensuring that our country has sufficient food to sustain itself as we move forward into which seems to be a food crisis developing globally is a major thing that I think most are not taking seriously. And for me, I'm looking 10, 20 years down the line. What will our country be if there is a shortage of food? And for a country which we call Layamiga, the land of fertile soil, it would be an atrocity for us to fall in that trap. So I've started working on that head on. And at this point, it's not just a personal effort as Samuel Duggins and Montreal Farms, but we are now directing, working, and collaborating with a number of farmer and fisher folks so that we could establish a widespread agenda to develop our food and nutrition security agenda. And that includes identifying a number of crops which we will be able to establish that could meet our basic needs because we know what it is like. We have the diet charts, and we know we need starches, we know we need proteins, we know we need legumes. And once we could establish some crops across all these different aspects, then we will then be able to meet our dietary needs, nutritional needs in a substantial way. Now, no one believes a small country like St. Kitts will be able to provide 100% of all we need. But what we are saying that in the worst of crisis, we should be able to survive. So that's one big agenda. And Montreal Farms has been leading the way on that. And we can see by the own admission of the gender affairs um, that as Man of the Year, it says something. So we see where we are directly involved in that mission. But if we go a step further, it's also a very young constituency, a constituency of young individuals predominantly, and a constituency which these persons are more geared towards entrepreneurship and understanding that. I have been working along with these individuals in a number of ways. I am currently co sponsor of the top football club in the constituency, and that club is the Old Road United Jets. And that club has been a club that has been on the rise for the last few years to probably being one of the more dominant teams nationally. But
Okay.
what is behind that rise is passion. A lot of young men are passionate about becoming professional footballers. So, what we would have done for that club is to establish a more professional structure, everything from the way they present themselves and their uniforms, all the way up to connecting them with scouts that are now looking at the team and the players to see who can make it in the international arena. And I must say, through different efforts, we had two of our players going off to play just last year in Europe. So we are working along with those as well, creating a diverse approach toward where our young people can go and become professional and find opportunities.
Well,
And
Mr.
it's so
Duggins,
much more.
I'm really happy that you brought up the youth and the ability to support the youth, not only in entrepreneurship, but when we look across the region, we have a rise in young leadership from Grenada, Miss James of
True.
St. John's, who was just elected the youngest at age 24. Over in Barbados, we see where young Keith Diwala, of course, was being considered by the Prime Minister of Barbados to be appointed as a young student who was going to the University of the West Indies to the Senate. Now, that never materialized, but you as a young professional, not as young as these two individuals that I named, but speaking to your constituents and the young leadership and the drive through entrepreneurship, I want to talk about youth development. Where do you see yourself assisting in that arena?
So the young development and entrepreneurship has already begun, and I want to speak to where we are now. Because I'm a firm believer that if you want to help, it should not be on the basis only as when we get into government. There should be some aspect of what are you doing now or what have you done. Now, in February of this year, we would have done, my wife and I got collaborated on an effort where we gave 40 grants to 40 young women in business to empower the small businesses. So we identified 40 young women under 40 and gave grants to those young business women. And the idea behind that is that if you're going to develop a community, it must empower women because women are the center bone, the backbone of our communities. So we did that 40-40, where we empowered 40 young women in business that were under 40. But as we go forward, we want to enhance that and increase that number. We want to include everybody and establish an economic hub that empowers small businesses to thrive and grow into medium and then large businesses. Because we all know small businesses are really the real drivers of economies. Because these small businesses, they sustain families, they give jobs. And if you have 100 small businesses that all hire 5 persons, that's 500 jobs. And in a community like ours, those aspects are very, very critical. It's also a part of the tourism belt, which is constituency number 4, which we see about 80% of our tourists traveling through this constituency, whether it's at Brimstone Hill, which is at one border, or Caribou Boutique, which is in the center, or Bloody Point River, which is at the other border, pretty much. Somewhere along the line, 80% of the visitors to St. Kitts and Nevis travel through constituency number 4. Do you know what that means for entrepreneurship? If we have over a million visitors a year, as reported, then that's a million opportunities for business. And I want to dive into that, enhance that, and empower our people to capitalize on that in so many ways.
Thank you so much for that. On the political front, you are again running with the Labour Party, of course, under the leadership of some of the more senior members of government. Why should the people of constituency number 4, and by extension, the people of St. Kitts, elect not only you, but the Labour Party to lead them in the next general elections?
Now, that is a very clear and simple conversation. We are here because we saw a coalition government that could not keep it together, that could not make its way even halfway through a term. It was only in 2020 where we had a general elections. We are now in 2022, just over 2 years after that general election, which should have been a 5-year mandate, and we are now back into elections because the coalition did not work. As we stand here now, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, not only do we have the best plans for the country moving forward, but it is the only party that can give you a a stable mandate with all 8 candidates ready to serve. So we don't want to go back into the mess that we just saw ourselves having, the coalition breaking up again. We want a clear mandate. We are at least 6 representatives from one party could have a stable government because the country is in need of stability right now. because we've seen all the mess that has been created by going into all these different coalition um, constructs. And we don't want that. People don't want that because the people are tired. Elections are demanding. And just a year and some months after one election, we are told that we're going back into another election. We don't want to hear that a year and months from here. So the truth is, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, as the only party that can rightfully campaign to say, give us a clear mandate to give you a government of one single party, that we have competent persons, and everybody would agree that let's take a Jeremy Hanley. No one would dispute his competence in education. Again, I'm Agricultural Man of the Year. No one would dispute my competence in that area. Then you have Dr. Terence Drew. No one would dispute his competence in health. Then you have Dr. Denzel Douglas, who would have been at the helm of government for years and has done a wonderful job there. And then you have Congress Maynard, who again, no one would dispute his competence. And Marsha Henderson, again, as an attorney, no one would dispute her competence. Kenny Douglas, again, as a sportsman, no one would dispute his competence. Leon Natter, again, as an accountant, no one would dispute his competence. So when you look at our team, all the way across the board, competent team, stable team, the only team able to really deliver all eight, or at very least, nothing less than six candidates. So I think when you look at that statement, it is exactly what the country needs at this time.
Thank you so much for that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, a date has not been set for the general elections, the federal elections. When does the 90-day period end?
So the 90-day period should end round about the 8th of August. So no date has been announced as yet. All the parliament has been dissolved. But we do know that we expect an election, of course, before the 8th of August. So by our constitution, I think he can give us a minimum of 18 to 21 days, if I'm correct. So somewhere 18 to 21 days before, he must have announced when the date of the election would be. And we are now working, regardless of when, we are working and prepared and ready for whenever it is that he will announce the date of the election. But I can assure you that the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, all eight candidates, and our leader, Dr. Terence Chu, we are ready for an election anytime that it is announced.
What has the campaign process been like for you? What has been your experience being on the ground and interacting with the general public?
It has been a wonderful experience having, spent so much time amongst the people and hearing their concerns and enjoying wonderful moments with them. We've had a wonderful time. But of course, I must also say that being time consuming and tiring. So sometimes, after the end of the day, you're completely exhausted. But it's rewarding at the same time knowing what you're doing for the development of your fellow man. To know that you are playing your role in national development and to see the important aspects that you are developing across the constituency with the people that you love and care for. There's nothing more rewarding. So every night as I go to bed tired, I woken rejuvenated, fresh, ready to go again because I understand the importance of the work that I do. So, if I were to sum it up in two words, it is quite tiring, but extremely rewarding, if I put it in that short term.
Definitely understand how that could be tiring but rewarding. As we close, Mr. Duggins, as you know, the Virgin Islands community has a number of St. Kitts and Nevis nationals living amongst us, many of whom who
Indeed.
have the opportunity from time to time would it take the opportunity to come and participate in the federal elections as citizens. I want you to speak to that demographic of persons in the Virgin Islands who are watching closely, they're anticipating, and they are most indefinitely concerned about the happenings and the development of the St. Kitts and Nevis communities. What would you say to those residents living amongst us here in the Virgin Islands who are quite concerned, and if they would and want to participate in the general elections?
Well, what I would say to the folks living in the Virgin Islands, and indeed the entire diaspora, is that this is your country as much as it is ours. We reside here. You may have moved away for whatever the reason, but it is still your country. At the end of the day, if you are from St. Kitts and Nevis, you are of the country. And we see right now where our democracy is at stake. We've had a number of discussions and arguments about the idea of this government trying to disenfranchise persons in the diaspora by not allowing them to come in to participate in the general elections by closing the borders. And this was done in 2020. Now, in 2020, in the height of the COVID pandemic, one did not make a huge ruckus because it was a global pandemic. But at this point, if you're going to tell me that a foreigner is able to visit this country, if you're going to tell me that persons from of Spanish descent are able to come and partake in our elections, but our born and bred locals in the diaspora will be disenfranchised. That is a huge blow to our democracy. And I'm saying the diaspora needs to stand up to that, just as we are standing up to that here on the island. And we all need to join in one fight because it is our country. No matter where you reside, it is our country. And we need every voice to stand up and echo that sentiment that we will fight for our country and we will fight for our right and we will fight for our democracy. And we will not let one man and his family dictate how that will be handled and coordinated.
Mr. Duggins, once again, I want to thank you so much for your time and, of course, joining us and speaking on a number of issues. We do wish you much health and continued success as you continue on the campaign trail, of course, along with your fellow candidates. Thank you so much for your time, and we will be in touch and continuing to follow the progress on the ground in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you all.
You're most welcome. Viewers, that is all the time we have. Of course, keeping you informed across the region as it pertains to the happenings of our brothers and sisters. Today, we were joined by constituency number 4 candidate of the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party, Mr. Samuel Duggins, who is contesting the next general elections. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Bye-bye.